Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Market Down Podcast. My name is Nick Cummings, joined this week by Chad Big Bad Johnson and Danny Hernandez. We start this week with the recent report from Sean Ross Sapp that WWE had contacted that is very difficult to say, AEW talents for a possible return. Obviously, this is a bit of tampering, especially because they contacted them personally instead of contacting the representation. The talent, who remained unnamed, then directed WWE to their agents, and then the talent also reported it to AEW, saying that they deserve to know. It's also been reported that the talent is very happy in AEW, has no desire to leave, and is under a full-time deal. So, Danny, I'll start with you. After a summer of tampering in basketball and football, of which I enjoyed immensely, I now have tampering in my wrestling. And there's a lot of speculation about who this is, who this was done by, especially now that Triple H is in charge. And there's a lot of old Triple H, we'll call them flames, in AEW. You can go ahead and recklessly speculate as to the who and the why, but also what are your thoughts about WWE just being this brazen in contacting a contracted AEW talent like this?
Well, as far as WWE doing this, that checks out. That's pretty par for the course for them. Of course, it's not even brazen for them. It's just the norm. Of course, they're like, what? They're like, will this hold up in a court of law? They're not even a real company. Like, but how can we tamper contracts with the T-shirt company? What? Like, I don't understand. But as far as who it is, yeah, fuck it. Let's rampantly speculate. Well, we know who it's not because it said they're happy there, so we know it's not Andrade. It's probably not Miro, even though I think Miro's unhappy in AEW. He's has short-term memory loss. He can't remember what it was like in WWE, but you know, uh, so that rules them out. It has to be someone who's happy there. So it could be a Malachi Black. It could be a Tony Storm because I feel like he's very likely to have reached out to a lot of the women to be like, hey, come back. We're doing something special here. You know, it could have been an Ember Moon who, you know, was one of the few people who begged to go back to NXT that got to go back to NXT when they were on the main roster. So she clearly has a fondness and a love for Triple H. But you got to think it can't be them because they snitched on him, you know? So I don't know. Could it be is Kyle O'Reilly been there long enough to just be definitively happy about it? I don't know. Like, I don't think he would be the guy. Cole sounds like he could be the guy because he's such good friends with the Bucks that he would tell them. But he loves Triple H, so like, you know, that's a conflict of interest there for him. You know, he's torn between his friends and his dad. You know, there's two dads and his two friends. You know, it's a little tough on him. So then I'm not sure. Maybe it's Stokely. You know, maybe it's him. Uh,
After our live earlier this week, I think Chad would be very happy if that man went back to NXT.
Yeah.
Well, he has to watch NXT though, so but there's so many people it could be, which is hilarious. Oh, you know what? It's Swerve. It's Swerve. He brought back Hit Row. He wanted all of them. He probably didn't. I could believe a little bit that he wouldn't know that some of these people are in AEW or not. So like, I could see him like reaching out and being like, "Are you in AEW or not?" It's hard to keep track, you know. And then because Swerve seems like someone who may, according to stupid fans online, would think he's wasting away in AEW. And I'm not even a fan of his, and I'm like, that's asinine because he's doing great things. You know, he's basically won me over by being friends with Keith Lee, even though I'm against the Franken team being champions. But like, I'm very pro Keith Lee being a champion. So, you know, yeah, I'm just gonna say it's Swerve because of the Hit Row of it all. Because you know, bringing back, and this is a little off topic, but That's not something we're known for here, but let's dabble in the idea of being
We never go
slightly
off topic.
Yeah,
Never.
let's try this thing called a tangent. Hit row without swerve is a bunch of losers, right? Am I wrong about that? They don't feel cool. B Fab feels like the coolest one of them, and that's like she's not a wrestler, you know. Like
but she is as
she's,
well.
She's at like Cameron levels now. She needs to move up. She needs to do, and that's fine because she's green. She's new. It's like that. I don't mean this super like in a super insulting way, but like, Top Dollar's a fucking punk, right? Like he's a loser. He's not as good as Max Caster. So like, what's the point?
If I remember correctly, when Swerve and them were just coming up, the plan was to make Top Dollar the top guy, right? And
yes, it was.
So, you know, I guess
that's because Vince saw him as like he's big. Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah. So I was saying, obviously that was Vince's plan and not Triple H's, but
yeah, I can see that because I don't know, they feel like lower mid card without Swerve, whereas if he was there, they would feel like upper mid card. You know, I think that's the best way to put it. Whereas maybe I could buy it, and again, I could be wrong. This could just be I'm just such a Max Caster mark that like I just hate Hit Row, and I only like Swerve because he's distanced himself from them now. You know, like so. Yeah, it could be that. I'm not willing that out, but yeah, I'm gonna say it was Swerve. That's my wild guess is that it was Swerve. But
I don't think that's too wild. I think a lot of people online, Reddit included, were speculating Swerve for reasons you stated, that Hit Row's coming back and, you know, trying to get the entire gang back together is a good idea. Cole was another one that was bandied around quite a bit, but especially because he went and told AEW management and he's such a nice dude about it. But I don't feel like it was him. The other name that was thrown around a lot that you didn't mention was Malachi. A lot of people think.
I swear, I meant to mention him. I literally meant, but he strikes me as someone who is in between. Like he's happy there, but I don't think he would snitch.
I don't know. I don't even consider this really snitching. I think it's more of just a heads up. Like, hey, this person contacted me, not wanting to go behind AEW management's back, which I think is a very stand-up thing to do. But, you know, Malachi does have reasons possibly to go back. Triple H treated him very well. Obviously, his wife, Zelina, is still there. But I don't know, Chad. I feel whoever it is, like we said, they're very happy in AEW. So despite WWE's best efforts, they're not, you know, this was a fishing expedition and they're going home hungry.
Right. I have,
or at least they have to go to the store.
I have pondered on this since the news came out, and I dibbled and dabbled and took notes, and I have come up with 5 names because let's be honest, I don't think it was just one person that they contacted.
Now I feel like you have a Pepe Sylvia wall behind you somewhere.
I'll explain each and why, but I absolutely think, I mean, reckless speculation, but not even think. I know that this is real. Like this is not fake news. This has happened, and I feel like it has happened in abundance. I think they've asked many talents, and maybe just one of them squealed. With that being said, yes, my number 1 is Malachi Black. I think Triple H was super high on him. I can see him wanting him back, especially with the way they were repackaging him before letting him go. Clearly a Vince idea. We don't have anything supernatural or dark besides Judgment Day, and who are we kidding? That's not a thing. So he would fit perfect on main roster, NXT, whatever. So I'm thinking Malachi.
I think he's got to go main roster at this point. He's too big for NXT.
Actually, I mean, we had vignettes for like 4 months regarding what he was going to do on the main roster. Then out of nowhere, what the hell?
If I remember correctly, that was Heyman too, setting all that up, and then he got cut, and they accidentally set him up for a perfect debut in AEW.
Wasted all that money to push him, so I kind of feel like
wasted all that money for your top competitor to grab him and run with it. Beautiful, bravo.
Vince is so dumb. Fuck you, Vince. Number two
the
is
pocket change to what he spent on other things that we're learning about, but
we'll get to that. Number two was the obvious Swerve, like you said. Hit Row re-debuted last week on SmackDown, and of course there was talk of Top Dollar being the top guy, but I think everybody who's everybody just kind of knew that Swerve was the one, regardless if Top Dollar went anywhere. Swerve had the most charisma, the best moveset. He was the most magnetic, so I could absolutely see him. Speaking of Swerve, I hate their tag team name. Number 3 is Keith Lee for me.
mm-hmm.
He's in the same exact predicament as Karrion Kross, where I think, well, hold on before I get Danny's panties in a bunch. I mean, Danny, that I think when they plucked them from NXT, they both were supposed to be these gigantic main event stars. And that was the plan. And then they both got scrapped around the same time. That's all I mean.
Okay. I understand what you mean now. And now that you explained yourself, you're even more wrong than I thought.
Oh, wow. What the hell? No, I mean,
Keith Lee was pushed crazy when he got called up. Let's not
even
forget,
before.
Okay? He beat
True.
Randy Orton clean. Like, he looked like a star, and he was challenging for the title. Karrion Kross lost to Jeff Hardy in 2 minutes. I don't understand how you could compare their debuts at all, honestly. One of them was actually pushed.
I'm not comparing the debuts.
I'm with Danny.
I'm not comparing the debuts.
I think you mean the idea behind, but that's not at all.
Okay.
I think you're talking about what Triple H maybe thought, but not
Yes.
what Vince thought, because Vince saw what Triple H saw in Keith Lee a little bit. He didn't see anything in Karrion Kross. He was like, you know what'll help this guy? Jeff Hardy will beat him in 2 minutes.
Okay, so I reneged my last statement. I was saying that
Yeah, you have to the end of the segment to take it back, so you're good.
I think their trajectories were supposed to be similar, not the same, but similar. I still don't know, man. I still don't know.
In Chad's defense, there was the idea behind Karrion Kross that he was supposed to lose a bunch, and then Scarlett was supposed to debut, and then he was supposed to go on a tear. But somebody kind of skipped the step that
the trajectory for Keith Lee was that he won a bunch.
Yeah.
So, like, again, it doesn't.
No.
I think you're just conflating big guys here.
No, I'm
not.
I'm trying to back Chad up here, but I'm going to say the problem with that idea for Kross was the obvious problem that no one's going to give a shit about a guy if he loses all of his matches to start. At least Keith Lee, like, when he was in WWE, both in NXT and when he came to the main roster, the dude was booked really well up until a point. I mean, obviously he had the huge moment in Survivor Series, which I'm pretty sure that NXT team won. He had the really cool face down with Brock. Oh, they lost that one?
Yeah.
They won a bunch of matches that night, though.
Yeah, just not that one, because Roman was in that one.
Oh, that's right. Fuck. But he had a great showing. He had the moment with Brock at the Rumble where he looked great and Brock called him a big motherfucker, which was awesome. And then the aforementioned actual main roster debut that you said, Danny, like, he won against Randy Orton clean. He had really good matches with Drew. He challenged for the title. Like, the dude had some good stuff there. And then in NXT, he was double champ. Like, he was booked really well by Triple H, and then his initial main roster debut, and then I don't know what happened. It became a fucking bear cat, and it died. But I think he's doing I don't want to say he's doing better in AEW, but I think he's going to have a much more consistent role there. So if it is him, I can see that's why he said, "Oh no, I'm happy here. Thanks, but no thanks."
Right. And
now,
I think
real quick, I'm going to push back on both you guys now.
Uh-oh.
So that's a great example of trajectory for Keith Lee, whereas Karrion Kross has no trajectory to speak of for the main roster. But, and this is, once again, a tangent, but I just don't know when we'll ever get a chance to talk about this on the podcast. But I want to put this out there because it is something that flies under the radar. And I would like to say that Keith Lee was not booked well in NXT until the last 5 months. He did nothing in NXT for almost 2 years before he did
completely
anything
agree.
in NXT.
That's fair.
He was losing to put over other people's feuds.
Yep.
Like, he was not doing shit in NXT for the longest time. So I would say he was just booked well for like one solid year, from Survivor Series of that year where he had the big moment to the Survivor Series of the next year, which is around when he got called up and had the win over Orton. And it was just a 1 year strong run. And honestly, half of it was on the main roster, half of it was in NXT. Like it was split, or maybe it was like 60 NXT, 40 main roster. But yeah, I don't like this. I just want the record to be shown that NXT dropped the ball on Keith Lee for a long time before they realized, oh, this guy's amazing. Let's fucking actually push him.
I agree.
But anyway, Chad, you were saying
I think we're on number 4, Chad.
No, I'm still on 3, damn it.
Oh, you're still on Keith Lee?
I'm still on Keith because I feel like you guys said, you know, he got a fair shake and he was going somewhere, and I agree. But I still don't think he got the chance that he was supposed to get, and Triple H absolutely recognizes that.
Yeah.
So minus the Karrion Kross slander, because I love Karrion Kross slander, not Karrion Kross. I just also wanted to say, in my defense, as an NXT guy, Karrion Kross took the title from Keith Lee, and he was supposed to be catapulted after that. Like, they ripped him from NXT so fast that he was supposed to be like automatic main event guy. I don't know who dropped the ball, fucked it up, but yes, the Jeff Hardy shit happened and it was terrible. But I'm just saying there were rumblings and ramblings that he was supposed to just propel as soon as he went to the main roster. That's all I meant.
Those rumblings legit, or were they just people speculating? Because that was always fans who was like, oh, he's a main roster guy, he's not an NXT guy because he's not a good wrestler, and NXT wrestlers are good wrestlers.
It could have been speculation. I think maybe because of his stature, I think everybody thought Vince McMahon would automatically try to Roman Reigns with him, and then they switched him up and got rid of Scarlett and shit, so it went downhill. But
they gave him a gimp helmet and
right. I don't know what happened in between NXT and the main roster, but what we heard when he was in NXT was that he was just supposed to go to the main roster and be like this incredible guy, the next Drew McIntyre or whatever. Anyway, number 4, which is kind of under the radar, and I'm probably really wrong, but I don't know why I have a feeling that Triple H liked her, I think is Ruby.
Oh, yeah, that's not a bad one. I mean, I can see why you think you're wrong, and it's definitely a sleeper pick there.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a sleeper pick, but I don't know why I feel like maybe even with Liv prospering now and everything that's going on with her, I just kind of feel like Ruby was seen but like not heard. And I feel like she also didn't get a fair shake on the main roster. And I think Triple H notices things like that because I think he cares about the women more so than Vince. And yeah, has
Triple H ever paid a woman $5 million? Because Vince McMahon has.
I can also see Triple H being more amenable to having more of like a punk rock woman like Ruby, as who's not Vince's typical blonde-haired, bimbo, wrestling. So I could see Triple H, should she again become available, trying to get her back.
I mean, Ruby was supposed to be like the next Paige. I mean, that was almost written in the stars. So
all goth chicks look alike to you.
No, Danny, don't do this.
But I get what you're saying, though. Like, another anti-diva type of wrestler.
I think, she was the hard-hitting, really, really wrestling chick, and I just thought she was gonna, do leaps and bounds, and I think Triple H kind of saw that. And number 5 is, Danny said it's no way it's him, but I don't know why I feel like they have contacted Miro. Just because of the name he's made outside of WWE, I'm pretty sure he's on their radar hard, and I just think somebody reached out at one point to just say, hey, are you happy over there? We can give you more if you come do this dumbass Rusev gimmick for another year, and maybe we'll treat you better this time, which they probably won't. But I just kind of feel like they, threw a dart at the board anyway.
I will say this. If Rusev went back and took the title off of Roman, that would be sick, but I don't want to see it. just because I don't want him to leave AEW. I love what he's doing in AEW when he's
He
actually
cannot
there.
leave AEW. Also, I mean, he can, but also I feel like if they were to contact him, he would absolutely be the person to talk shit. Like, yeah, they called me last week. Fuck them.
That's a good point. Yeah,
He just seems a little, a little petty to be
yeah,
the guy to tell.
yeah. The report only said that AEW management was told because they deserve to know, but they deserve to know can also be like you said. It's just like, yo, fuck these guys thinking they're gonna bring me back. Like I'm just giving you guys a heads up so when these guys start tampering again, you can, your asses can be covered.
Throw me the bag so I can shut up.
Despite all the reckless speculation, which is fun, I do think that the important thing coming out of all of this isn't WWE, quote unquote tampering. It is that the wrestlers now have two really good and big options. It's not just WWE or or the indies, and like Impact is obviously there, but it is a much smaller promotion than AEW. It's AEW, who obviously has a lot of money and can pay a lot of people, and WWE, who has a lot of money and can pay a lot of people. And as contracts start to expire and people don't get re-signed and there's a lot of movement, I think we're going to see a lot of cool shit happen. I think we're going to get a lot of matchups we don't think we're necessarily going to see, guys and girls going from one company to the other, cool debuts, cool new feuds, and it's going to be a really, really good time to be a wrestling fan coming up. More so, I think, than the past 3 years of just the competition between the two companies.
I agree. I have one last note on this before we get to the next topic. I know who it absolutely is not. That I can say. And that would be Samoa Joe. WWE fucking hates Samoa Joe. I think
Triple H loves him, man.
Samoa Joe.
I think every higher up secretly hates Samoa Joe because he's so injury prone.
They put him on commentary. They don't do that for anyone.
Triple H has exhausted every option with this guy. I think he hates him now.
Yeah. Well, Samoa Joe hasn't even been on AEW TV in forever. He's just straight up the Ring of Honor guy. So whenever I feel like I say this at least 6 times every week. Whenever they get the weekly Ring of Honor show off the ground, we're going to be seeing a lot more of Samoa Joe down there. But
ding dong, hello, Tony, do it.
I'd love to see Samoa Joe on my TV again. I do miss him. So I don't know. I had one more point, but I forgot what it was. So let's just keep it rolling. Nah, it's okay. It happens. I'm going to think of it like halfway through our next topic and then be like, oh, shit. Yeah, it was that. Speaking of our next topic, WrestleNomics has found a correlation between the recently discovered $5 million Vince McMahon had made payments with and payments to the Trump Foundation during the same period. Now, I do want to point out there has been no confirmed link between these two payments. This is just one analyst's opinion, and he noticed that the same amount of money during the same amount of time was paid was paid to the Trump Foundation by quote unquote WWE. It wasn't directly from Vince or Linda. It was paid from the company by the company's address, according to the IRS tax filings. And that same amount of money was also paid by Vince McMahon to parties unknown. So I will once again hit the reckless speculation button because obviously there are a lot of ties between Vince McMahon and Donald Trump, not only just their wrestling ties. We had the Battle of the Billionaires. Trump, I think, bought Raw for a week and so on and so forth. We do have the political ties as well between McMahon's being big political donors to the Trump campaign and also to Linda McMahon being the Secretary of Small Business during, I think that's the title, but whatever it was, she was that during the Trump administration. So, Chad, again, this is just speculation and there's seemingly a correlation here, but I do think it is fair to question considering all of the ties between the McMahons and the Trumps. Vince obviously hasn't been too forthcoming with the way he spent the company's money, and he's obviously spent it in ways that he shouldn't have been. But we don't necessarily know how this newly discovered $5 million was spent. We all just assumed it was for payouts related to his sexual, assault and harassment allegations. But it could, in theory, be this.
I mean, thank you for the disclaimer, but I absolutely think this shit is true as well. Like the first topic. I mean, they're Republicans. Donald Trump has been on my TV in a WWE ring more than once. I believe isn't he in the Hall of Fame?
Yes, I do believe he's in the celebrity wing of the WWE Hall of Fame.
It makes sense. They're buddy. I can't question this. I mean, it's either true or it's not, but I'm leaning towards true, and that's that. Vince is a piece of shit. Again, I feel like I say that 6 times each episode, but it's never untrue. So stop me when I'm lying. Yeah, I definitely think this is going on. This has happened.
Yeah, and in the piece, the author did he did mention, obviously there are certain tax laws that could possibly be avoided by paying through the company to the foundation instead of paying it directly to to Donald Trump. And however that works, I should know it wasn't directly to his campaign, it was to the foundation. Excuse me, this was between 2007 and 2009. The campaign obviously didn't start coming around until 2016. So even if that money was used and taken from the foundation, it would have happened much later. Again, this is all, speculation, but
sounds about white.
Exactly.
Sorry to be controversial, but whatever. Maybe that'll get us some more subs.
No, but I don't think you're wrong. And not just, it just sounds like rich people doing rich people things, moving money around. WWE has claimed in the past that all payments, Danny, to Donald Trump for his WWE appearances were paid directly to Donald Trump and not to the foundation. So this money allegedly wouldn't be for that. But, if Vince maybe, threw a couple extra bills his way for those appearances, it wouldn't surprise me either.
So I'm not prepared and I didn't do my research ahead of time. So I'm just going to throw shit out there and speculate as we're doing this episode. But I believe it was AT&T was merging with, who cares, Sprint, Singular, I don't know, with another cellular company.
Oh, back in the day, it was Singular. Remember they had the little Singular guy, and then they.
Oh yeah.
So no, it's not Singular because this is recent. This isn't like the last.
Oh, they merged with Warner Brothers, or they bought Warner.
With another. It was 2 cellular companies.
Is it T-Mobile fusing with Sprint? Because I believe that's what happened to me.
I don't know. Either way, it's not supposed to happen because it's borderline monopoly at that point, and
they bought DirecTV too. AT&T
blah blah
did.
blah. To let this kind of thing slide, they just donated a bunch of money to Trump's charity, and then spent a bunch of money at his hotels, which he was still making money off of as president, which you're not supposed to do. We had a president have to go up his fucking farm to be president because, God forbid, he has a farm, But anyway, that's neither here nor there, and we don't take sides on the Market Down podcast at all. But so him donating to Trump's charity is could easily be a workaround. It's a very common thing. But then again, does that mean that Trump let Vince in on the not so secret that he planned on running for president? Because that's not surprising at all. That could very well be the case. And you know what? If Vince wants to support his friends, sure. I think there's just less sketchy and legal ways to go about it. And again, I don't understand the legality of all this. I'm no person to give financial advice. I don't eat crayons, but like, you know, I I didn't take any like finance classes in college, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But I agree with Chad when he said that Vince McMahon is a monster or a piece of trash or whatever exactly you called him. But you know what? I'm gonna be honest. I'm not really the person to speak about this, and I make a joke out of almost everything, and certain things shouldn't be made into jokes. And this isn't one of them. I am not prepared. I don't really have any jokes. So that being said, after me and Chad both give our opinion, let's throw it back to the white guy that's leading us in all of this for some reason.
Hey, I am.
Thanks, what's your last name?
Yo soy puertorriqueño. Paredes. No. Look, yeah, you're right. It's hard to know what actually happened here. The WrestleNomics here, they've just made the correlation. We may never know where this money went, especially if it did end up going to the Trump Foundation, because I have to imagine WWE would want to bury that. So it's
that also ties in. I'm so sorry, because I just remembered there was the whole thing about Kevin Dunn and the Make America Great Again sticker he would plaster on like the production truck.
Oh, I believe it was a flag that he used to hang outside the truck.
Oh God, I guess, is that better or worse because it's easier to remove than a sticker?
Well, it was much bigger than the sticker, so
yeah, that's true.
Probably because they didn't want WWE trucks going around the country with a MAGA sticker on it. But
yeah, so and it's just funny for a company that forced Titus O'Neil to go out 4 weeks ago and say that we don't talk about politics, we don't do this, we don't do that, and then like a week later, 2 weeks later, that story comes out about Dunn and the flag, and it's like, look, at the end of the day, you can have your political beliefs, and as long as they're not impeded on other people's freedom, it's relatively fine. Like, Chad doesn't think that whales have rights, and like I disagree with that strongly, and that's but like if that's otherwise his political opinions are his political opinions, and that's mostly fine. But like he doesn't come into work, because we work here 9 to 5 in Marketown every 5 days a week, like we come into the office, we all are in the same office, we're just in different parts of it. And if Chad was going around here like with his anti-whale propaganda, I would make for a bad work environment, because now you can't just assume everyone agrees with you, and just because you're in a position of power, and you guys don't know this, but secretly, James is in charge of the whole company, and if he was going around spreading his beliefs, which I'm not even gonna say right now because they're appalling, but if he was going around saying those beliefs, it would make us uncomfortable. And just because he has power doesn't mean we have to sit there and take it. So the fact that Kevin Dunn is doing that, it's just like, I don't know. Like it's your right, but it's like you're doing it on company property. Like literally, like you're not damaging company property, but you are decorating company property.
You're creating an uncomfortable work environment for some people. Obviously, I would state, I think, with fact that Make America Great Again is at minimum a controversial, movement, so to speak, and a controversial political backing. And there are plenty of people there who not only disagree with what they stand for, but perhaps feel threatened and offended by it. And by hanging
just a bunch of snowflakes,
And by hanging the flag, I would agree. Yes, you can create a very uncomfortable work environment for people, and a non-inclusive one at that. And
it's just pointless.
It's also
What benefit is it? Like, does that I don't understand.
Yeah, you just at that point you're just kind of rubbing a bunch of people's faces, and it's just a dick move, no matter what side you're on, I think. But just to circle back around here to the money part of this, like I said, I'm not sure we're ever going to find out where this money actually went, especially if it went to the Trump Foundation, just because for aforementioned political things, there's just probably the WWE itself as an entity probably doesn't want any more, wants but they don't want the SEC to come down any harder probably than they're already going to. So whether it's true, and if it is true, if Trump and Vince did it for tax evasion purposes or whatever it was, there's a very good chance we never find out where this money went if it wasn't involved in the payoffs for for all the sexual scandals.
And if Vince is even half as savvy as Trump is, he'll never face any consequences for it either. So it's totally fine.
That's true.
All's well that ends well, I guess.
Well, Vince resigned, so he's in the clear, right?
Yeah.
Right?
I think that's how it works, honestly.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it works. At least when you're rich. All right. Enough speculation for today. Let's move on. NXT had their NXT Heatwave episode this past Tuesday, and apparently it went very well, drawing their highest viewership since October of 2021. Now, I don't have much on this personally because I didn't watch the card. I saw the end of the Tony D'Angelo and Santos match, which looks really good. But other than that, Chad, I'm going straight to you here, being our resident NXT expert. Obviously, this is a big deal for NXT, drawing their highest viewership in about a year.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know how long they've been NXT 2.0, but it seems like they finally found their footing here, and they're getting back to the viewership that they expected when they first put them on USA Network.
Agreed. I think ever since 2.0 started, I believe I said they were throwing glitter on horse shit or whatever the reference was before. But it looks like now, I don't want to put this all on Triple H, but it does seem like the last 2-3 weeks we've been getting footing, and NXT is looking a little different. It's still 2.0 and flashy and flamboyant, but they're owning in on a lot of the wrestling. They're dialing back on the extravagant promos to give us segments that are, I guess, more in the lane it needs to be of indie wrestlers. And it's looking pretty good. I watched Heatwave, although none of the titles changed. It was a good card. The matches were good. The segments were fine. There was nothing out of the ordinary. But the last year has been relatively trash. So
yeah, we noticed when you stopped doing the fast forwards.
Exactly. It was, I don't know how long I stopped doing them, but for that whole period, I was just exhausted with the back and forth of nothingness. It was like Dolph Ziggler was a champion, and then it went to shit. No offense to Dolph Ziggler because I like Dolph. It was a lot. So
he did seem out of place down there.
It was very, like, the whole show seemed out of place. I can't even explain it. Like, the last year has been really tough if you're an NXT fan. So yes, it does look like we're getting on solid ground finally, and I'm hoping for the best. And great win to, getting the viewership back up. Hopefully it's just up and up from here.
Yeah, I think also too, obviously, the switch to Wednesdays when they had them there was not a great idea. And then they moved to Tuesdays and they rebrand, and they didn't really know what they wanted to do. And it looks like it's taken them this long to finally figure it out. And now you have Triple H, a bit more back at the helm. Obviously, he's doing Raw and SmackDown, so I don't know how much he's 100% involved in NXT, but he's got Shawn down there, and I'm sure they talk about it a lot. So perhaps we're going to get more of something in the middle between 2.0 and, good old black and gold NXT, where it, like you said, it still has the flash and flamboyance of, the colorful brand, but a lot, a bit more of the grittiness and the promos we used to see of black and gold. And I think if they can accomplish that, they would create a very good and unique show.
I agree. It would be Rampage in the right time slot. Because I mean, I've seen Rampage before, and I think Rampage is great. It's just we all know it's the time slot of death. So if done properly, that's exactly what it would be.
Yeah, I've said this before, I love Rampage. I just never fucking watch it because
agreed.
Time slot of death, and then I forget it's on, and by the time I realize that it's Wednesday again, and I'm confused as to what goes on Rampage sometimes. Danny, I'm not sure you watch too much NXT, but just what are your thoughts on the fact that it seems like NXT is making a bit of a push for a comeback?
I disagree with everything you guys said. I don't watch NXT, but I somehow disagree. But no, first of all, I'm very happy that Casey Catanzaro is holding a title finally.
Katana chance.
Yeah, no, that's not a real thing.
Oh God, I hope with Triple H back we stop doing the stupid names.
They'll still be changed. They just won't be as stupid.
Yeah, I guess because they want to own the names to everybody. Right. Yeah.
Triple H has bent on that before, so we'll see. But I'm very happy that I know that was like weeks ago, but when do we ever talk about NXT?
No, it was a good moment.
Yeah, gotta hop on the fast forwards with Chad.
Yeah, sure. If they ever happen, sure, I'll hop on them. But as far as we don't need NXT to go back to being NXT because the main roster is now NXT, so we don't need a third NXT. All we need is for NXT 2.0 to do what it's supposed to do and just let these young people develop. Because that's one positive thing I will say about NXT 2.0 is that it finally felt like it was more about like developing the people that needed to be developed, like a Braun Breaker or a Nikita
Lyons.
Yeah, like people
Tony
like that,
D'Angelo.
You develop them for this, not just Triple H's fucking indie fantasy, which is great and we love it. It was fantastic. Like now the main roster's that. We don't need NXT to be that anymore. We need NXT to actually just be a developmental. And if they happen to be hitting a stride where they're bringing in bigger numbers than they've ever done, hey, that's even better. Good for them. That means it's working, and that means that call-ups will work better because the more people watch NXT, the more special call-ups will feel, and the less you have to change about call-ups because they'll just be established. So it's good. Like it's just all good things all around. We don't ever. I mean, I think you understand this, Chad. But if I could speak directly to our audience, like Nick or maybe James, I feel like James will understand this too, but he's not here, so I'm going to belittle him a little bit. But even though I just said he was the boss earlier, but the NXT you loved is gone, and it's never coming back, and it doesn't need to anymore. That's the beauty of Triple H being in charge of creative on the main roster. So we don't need NXT. He's gonna take all the things he loved and we loved about NXT and apply it to Raw and SmackDown so that they can be better shows. And then NXT will serve its original purpose. And it's a win-win all around. And if you happen to enjoy NXT, that's just a nice bonus because that's all NXT should be, is a nice bonus. It shouldn't be must-watch because it's the third brand in a fucking... And when there's too much wrestling as it is, and we're wrestling every day of the week. So like NXT should just be a nice bonus for anyone that wants to watch it. And you should feel rewarded for watching it. And I think we'll see it more and more going forward. The more successful call-ups we have, the more rewarded you'll feel for having watched NXT. And then maybe the people who don't watch it, like, you know what? I got to check it out. And it could become, a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it becomes a cycle of NXT succeeded until the main roster succeeds more. So then because the main roster succeeded more, NXT succeeds more. And that's all good. And now that they're not going head to head, I feel fine saying nice things about NXT. I don't gotta be tribalistic and take sides. I can just be happy for NXT. I can't wait for the day Toxic Attraction goes up to the main roster.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a big one.
Andy back on the main roster is going to be fun.
it's gonna be pivotal for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she's been doing great. I think she
Amazing.
is the biggest success of somebody who was on the main roster and went back down.
100%.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, Danny, I agree with you too. Like, you're right. At NXT, we knew, aka WWE Indies is gone, and it's back to what it was originally. Like, when Seth Rollins first won the title, and you had like guys like Big E and Xavier Woods learning down there, and the very early days of NXT. Even like before Neville and Sammy, I guess because when Sammy won, it kind of started turning into WWE Indies, but that very early stage of let's develop people, have them learn the WWE style, have them learn to cut a promo in front of a live crowd, and when they're ready, we can bring them up to the main roster. And they're doing that now for a national audience. And I think is NXT live, Chad?
I think sometimes.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it's back to when
is.
sometimes it is and sometimes it isn't.
Yeah, normally it's not, but I think sometimes it is.
Right. Okay. So yeah, that's what it used to be. Sometimes it was live and sometimes it wasn't, which is all well and good in case somebody screws up, they can go back and fix it. Because like we said, this is developmental, and like I said earlier, if they find the good ground between what NXT 2.0 needs to be and what Triple H can bring back to it, of not necessarily it being NXT Indies, but just the style of Black and Gold, where the way they were doing things on TV with the combination of the pomp and circumstance. I think it's going to be a really, really good developmental third brand show, and I don't think we can ask for anything more than that out of them.
Agreed.
And I'm very much looking forward to that actually happening. All right, let's do one more story here, which I just find hilarious. And quite frankly, I said this before the show, I am Jack's complete lack of caring, but Brandy Rhodes, yes, her, has been seen at the WWE Performance Center, and apparently she wrestled at a WWE live event last week. Yay. But I like Brandy. I thought she was a great valet for Cody in AEW. When she gets into the ring, I know you would probably disagree with that, Danny. I liked her as Cody's valet.
When was she Cody's valet though in AEW?
Well, I mean, she would come out with him and stuff. Like, she was.
I don't know. I feel like Arn Anderson was more of a valet.
Well, I mean, Cody had fucking like 8 people coming out with him at certain points. Like, the whole freaking Nightmare family used to come down with him. So, but it was Brandy, Arn, and Cody, and then occasionally the dog. But her in the ring, for me, it's never really hit right. I don't understand why WWE is doing this, but I don't know. Somebody take this, because I don't have much to say about it.
I'll go first because
sure.
I feel like Danny is going to drive it home. I've never really known her as a wrestler. As you guys know, I just started AEW this year, and I've seen her on the mic once, but I've only really known her as a ring announcer. So I'll take
Eden Styles back in the day.
I've never seen an Eden Styles match in my life.
She didn't wrestle. She was the backstage interviewer.
Oh yeah,
in WWE.
I remember that.
Cody.
Then I remember her being, the main announcer before JoJo or whatever her name is, and I guess I'll just have to take your word for it that her wrestling is meh. I really, 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 really hope that they don't do a whole, I guess, Nightmare family and have her and Cody like win titles together and shit. I'm not for that. I don't know if she's good as a wrestler, but it's a hard pass for me for some reason, and I don't even know if she can wrestle. I don't know. I'm not there. Danny?
It's not a hard pass. It's a reasonable pass. you don't got to be confused or feel bad about it. It's a totally normal, borderline natural reaction. You see, Brandy could be an amazing heel if she would just accept that that is her role in life right now. But
She did for a
she,
little bit in AEW. She definitely healed it up more than Cody did.
um, yeah, sure, I guess. But you know, she, like Cody, had these illusions of grandeur, and I I don't want to say anything too harsh about Brandy because then she'll just pull cheap. She'll play both cards, and you know what cards I'm talking about, as an out, as opposed to taking natural criticism that is pretty universal amongst the fan base. And, you know, I think AEW's fan base is a little more liberal and accepting of everyone. So the issue with Brandy is more of a personal thing, you know, but her all of her pushes in AEW have just reeked of nepotism. It just reeked of your husband's an EVP, you're the chief branding officer, what literally whatever that means. I mean, I barely know what EVP really means. You know, I know it's executive vice president, but what does that really mean? You know, but anyway, it always just reeked of that, especially because the most criticizable thing about AEW has consistently from the beginning been the women's division. And in the beginning, one of the only focal points of the women's division was the Nightmare Collective with Brandy and Awesome Kong. And it made no sense because that was a time where the audience just wanted to cheer Brandy because Cody was the most over babyface in the company. So she was over as a babyface by association. But no, she had to go against the grain and try to do her own thing. And I can respect that you feel creative and you want to do you have a vision, you want to see that through. And I get that. But you got to know when and how to go about it. And sometimes it's just not believable. There's, even if it was a good plan, it was poor execution. The timing was bad and the execution was just bad. But so her whole AEW run was just marred by this. And there was like, she had a lot of cool promos, but again, it's like, why do you need this? Why are you like, why do you need this feud? And why do you like, you know, like you're not Stephanie McMahon. Like you don't have that level of star power. And you know, and there's the whole. I think Stephanie McMahon's a terrible authority figure because she didn't get her comeuppance enough, and she just made people look weak because they couldn't do anything to her as the boss. So it's like you're not even at her level, and I think she was bad as an authority figure as it was. So you don't have that credibility. You don't have the in-ring credibility, and you know, not that she hadn't improved because she went from a ring announcer to wrestling, so obviously she had to improve to some degree, but like she had none of that, and it just always came off as tone deaf. She was part of the reason that Cody and just seemed to be delusional and clueless at the end of their AEW tenures. So her, like, no one wants that because even in WWE, she's not known as anything. She's known as Eden Styles, and it's like, I think it's weird if you remember that, honestly, because she wasn't like a big deal. She wasn't a popular ring announcer. She was there for a short amount of time and then left. Like, it's.
She didn't get popular until she started showing up on BTE and started saying "fuck the revival."
Yeah, she. Yeah, exactly. She was nothing until post WWE, and like, and. It's hard to just, you could throw out nepotism for a lot of things, but it's hard for people to view it as anything but. And I'm not saying that it is, but a lot of people view it that way, and you can understand why. So now her coming back and wrestling in WWE just sounds like more of the same. It sounds like, well, like if she gets pushed, I can't, like that's not going to taste right. That'll dampen my view of Cody in WWE, who's arguably the most over babyface in the company. Like it's a weird omen of a bad things that could come. But this could just mean nothing. She could just wrestle a couple times, nothing comes of it. Maybe she wrestles in NXT and helps build people over because I just don't understand what she brings to the table. that's my thing. I think that's a lot of people's thing, but it's hard to articulate because again, everyone kind of comes off as like stubborn, or I guess they could come off as bigoted in this case, but I think everyone just comes off as so annoyed by something that it's hard to articulate yourself about it. And I feel that way to a degree too, where it's like sometimes it's hard to explain the Brandy problem. Same way it was hard to explain the Cody problem. And like where Cody didn't even solve the problem, he just fucking changed the setting. He didn't change anything. You know, like, but for Brandy, it's like she doesn't have that goodwill. What goodwill does Brandy have? You know, that she gets a refresh. Like it's not the same as Cody coming home. She's not coming home. It's like she's going back to the apartment where she crashed on her friend's couch, you know, if we're using the home metaphor. But I don't know, like that's the best I can tackle it. It's a weird thing because it's so low stakes, but yet there's so much nuance to it. It's so annoying, honestly.
Yeah, my biggest question is just why. You know, I have no problem with Brandy as a person, like her character.
Yeah, I'm sure she's fine.
I've seen a couple of things she's done outside of the wrestling ring. I've watched a episode or two of like A Shot of Brandy when she was doing that on YouTube, just because she had a couple cool guests on, and she seems great. But like, just her character in AEW was, like you said, so very confusing because she changed directions like 18 fucking times, and it never made any sense. And her in-ring work obviously left something to be desired, even though she wasn't in the ring too often. But God, imagine I don't remember if she had gotten pregnant or she got hurt. I think she got pregnant.
She got pregnant.
Yeah, she was supposed to be in that match with Shaq and Jade and Jade's debut. Imagine that was her instead of Red Velvet. That match could have went far differently. But,
I mean, that's the one example where I think it would have been better if she was there, because who the fuck is Red Velvet? Especially at that point, you know.
I think
Red
Velvet
was literally a no one.
I think Velvet made Jade look a lot better than Brandy could ever make her look. So
not a lot, but definitely better. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Velvet is okay in the ring.
Yeah, so. Exactly.
Yeah, she's okay now, but she was a little less than okay then. Like she was fairly new at that point too. So
is Brandy okay in the ring or less than?
Less than. Even at the time. But yeah, you're right. Velvet was a bit greener.
I'm just saying it was a lateral move, but lacking the star power because no one knew.
Yeah, I don't think it was a lateral move skill wise. At least Velvet, I think, had a wrestling background. Like that's my like Brandy didn't have a wrestling background, even though she's obviously learned to wrestle to an extent and she's had matches before. She just isn't the best in the ring, and I'm totally okay with her joining Cody when he comes back. You know.
So we get that Miz and Maurice versus Cody. And
I wasn't even going to say in the ring, but yeah, I guess if she ended up more like Maurice, where she wrestles on occasion, but her main role is to just, come down with Cody to the ring and, perhaps.
Well, Maurice can wrestle, so.
Yeah, that's true.
She's got a.
No, I know, but she doesn't wrestle.
I mean,
as much
Maurice is like light years better than Brandy, but I would say like
agreed. I'm just talking about in terms of time in the ring and role while with
I get
her
it.
husband.
I do get it. Yeah.
So I'd be okay with that and the occasional mixed tag match, but I just don't understand why they would. I don't want to say why they would want her as a full-time wrestler, but I don't get the idea behind it. I would say I am just praying, and I thought of this. And I'm almost afraid to put it out into the world, but as long as I never see a Cody and Brandy versus Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch match, I think I'll be okay with Brandy coming back into the ring in WWE.
Why would you even say that?
Because it popped into my head and I didn't want to share in this misery alone.
Well, you know why it won't happen? Because
Becky and Seth won't do it.
Cody are self-aware enough to know that they would have to be the heels in that. So that just would never happen.
Yeah.
Becky just turned face. She's not turning back heel again.
Yeah, exactly. That too. And I don't think Becky and Seth want to. I don't think they really want to work together again after they did everything with Corbin.
Becky's an
Place
A-tier
him.
star and Seth is like a B+, you know? So
I think he's like I think I call a B+ player. No, look, I'm sure it'll be fine, but just not for me, I would say. And on that disappointment, that's the end of the episode. I'd like to thank everybody so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. As of this recording, we are at 95 subscribers, which means we're only 5 away from James having to wrap and dye his beard green. And as he would most likely complain, he has been growing his beard out so he can shave it once he dyes it, and it's getting pretty long. So be sure to subscribe, get us to the subscribers, get us to that wrap. I need to see James embarrass himself. It'll be great. Also, be sure to check out all of our social media stuff. They're in the links below. You can hang out with Chad on Twitter, Danny, Instagram, and TikTok, James on Facebook. And I occasionally hop in on the Twitter when there's a pay-per-view and I'm drunk. And be sure to check out all our other videos. We do live episodes after every Dynamite on Wednesday. Danny's been hopping on the fast forwards. Dan, you doing the fast forwards live for Monday Night Raw now?
sometimes.
All right, well, it's going to be like old Monday Night Raw. Sometimes they're live, sometimes they're not. Either way, be sure to check those out on Monday. Hopefully, Chad gets the fast forwards going for NXT on Tuesday, and James does Impacts on Thursday. So, pick what you like, and whatever show you watch, come join us afterwards, and you'll get some good content out of that, as well as all of our other videos. So, that all being said, for Danny Hernandez and Chad Big Bad Johnson, my name is Nick Cummings. Thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you here next time on the Mark It Down podcast. Have a good one, everyone.